Glad to have you here and you all here on this talk about how design might be applied to innovation processes. And the panelists that we have here today have all been part of a project called Beyond the Future. And of course, it's as amazing as it sounds. And if you want to know more about the project per se and what's been done, you can actually find the films about that on the Southern Sweden Design Days platform. But today we're gonna focus more on a general level. We're gonna share some insights and learnings about what we've learned in the project, challenges, and what's been rewarding for us, and also what design brings to the table and how you might work collaboratively with innovation and development processes. So I'm super curious to get to know all about this together with you. And to give you an idea of who's here today, we have James from On Materia, and you're an industrial designer. We have Ebba from Henriksson & Lindgren, you're also an industrial designer. We have Anne from Black Lizzie, and you're a UX and service designer. And last but not least, Helen, you're the project owner of this, and you're from Tourism in Skåne. And I'm Emma. I'm also working at Black Lizzie, and I have the opportunity also to participate in this project, leading the innovation aspects and processes of the project. So let's get down to what we've been doing and especially what we've learned. And we're gonna share some ups and some downs. And I think we're gonna also end up with some tips from you guys to everyone who's watching. What you might take with you if you want to go into co-creative, innovative processes together. So starting off with the project per se, I know that you all got a design brief from the project owner, Helen, and your colleagues. And you mentioned when we talked about all of this that the design brief was one thing, but then you found out that the real design task was something else. You want to share, Ebba, what happened?
I mean, when we first got the design brief, it was very specific and straightforward. We were to design a lodging or dining concept along Skåneleden. But when we started working on the project, it became obvious that the real challenge is actually to get people out in nature in the first place. So we wanted to work on lowering the threshold and get people out who are maybe not used to camping or don't know where to go or so. So that was the real challenge.
Yeah, so it was all about getting more people out in nature and experiencing nature.
Exactly.
Yeah. How did you find that approach to the challenge? Was it the same for you?
Yes, definitely. So when I got into the project, we wanted to really go in deep and understand behaviors, the thinking, the feelings of the end users, learn about their experiences, what challenges they see. And I found it really interesting to listen to all these exciting anecdotes, but it was also interesting to hear what they weren't saying. So they were telling about the high points and the low points, and not so much about the smooth experiences. And I think that's something to bring with us when designing.
Super interesting. James, I know you found something within yourself as a designer when approaching this challenge.
Absolutely. And as visitors first to Sweden, but then now residents, then to be part of this project was also to understand our journey into nature, to be able to explore the Swedish countryside. And we wanted others to experience that too. And I think there's a way in the Swedish culture that is also very caring about nature and the way to interact and to keep it clean and to look after it for future. And I think that's very sustainable. That's a really good way of looking at things. And I think that we'd like to share our journey into nature and enable other people also to experience that.
That's great. In this project specifically, you were enabled by the project owner to have a very explorative approach. And I think that you all discovered that when you also discovered that the design brief wasn't as it was read. And I guess that also enabled you to open up to really explore many different aspects and solutions before going into the specific solution or ideas of the concept. In what way do you think that this way of working, very explorative, have enabled you to create a stronger concept in the end?
I can say that, like, as a designer, we're very used to working this way, and working exploratively, that's like a given. And you have to always start off like that, and thinking really big and explore all the ideas. But then it's smart to narrow down, like quiet soon, and choose 2 or 3 strong ideas and explore them further. Because then you can use those ideas to direct you. So for example, me and Stina, we wanted to create a dining concept, and we needed to find like a lot of farmers and food producers in the area in close proximity to Skåneleden. So we started to look at maps and really like try to pinpoint where they were. And then we figured out that maybe the real design should be about like designing the system and the network for these farmers and food producers, instead of maybe being so product focused.
And Anna, I know you've also had that more of like systemic or holistic approach. You want to tell a bit more about?
Yes, so listening and learning to the end users. And here we took foreigners visiting Swedish nature. Those are the people we talked to and learned from. And to understanding their holistic experience from the start to the beginning, and how food and lodging experience in the Skåne's nature, what they've done already, what they were expecting, and how they would like it for the future.
Right. So I guess it's a lot about connecting the dots, but also about finding the blind spots.
Definitely.
Yeah. How's that been for you, James, connecting all of these dots?
Well, that's, as designers, I think we were able to jump and communicate and be the bridge across different industries. And we have the freedom to be dreamers in the beginning, but we need to connect with the doers also. And that involves not only going into our own network, but also to meet others that have a better understanding maybe of solutions. We can put different understandings together and come really with a better idea at the end of it.
Yeah, you've been collaborating between your design competences in this project, but you've also brought in the tourism industry and people actually working within the tourism industry who will be the enablers of the concepts. And I know, Anna, you've met some of them in your validating and prototyping phase of this project.
Definitely. So the blind spots we are talking about, it's been really interesting to find where we can match the needs of the users to what the tourism industry can offer. And I'm really amazed by the creativity I met, by the willingness to twist and try, and very much in quick circles trying to figure out and adjusting to the needs.
Yeah. Helen, I know that this is like your sweet dream, like working cross competences with innovation. And I'm curious to hear, how's that been for you in this project, and what have you learned? Like, is there any aspects of working cross competences that you will bring into more projects ahead?
Yeah, I think so. We had a dream, like cross industries, and where magic and innovation occurs when you just take in an outside perspective. And I think that dream came kind of true, but then we wished also for like even more mix of a team, like with more industries. Like, how can we do that, and what will happen then? Because now we had designers, and as James said, like they're used to moving around in industries, but so to have some solutions for digital, because we try to jump into the future with this project, like from reality into the future. And if we could, like, for the next time around, we will definitely use the design approach, because it has been amazing, but also maybe to cross other industries into a team. That would be my next sweet dream.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think that's what you all really experienced in this project. Ebba, what's the point of like having designers in a very early stage of these kind of projects?
Yeah, I think it's really important to use the design teams in the beginning of a project, because in a project like this, we can really like develop strong concepts and create like really original ideas, maybe more than focusing on form, for example. And it's just really important to have a diverse team when you try to work with innovation.
Yeah. So a diverse team is really what you'd need, but it sounds that it could be a bit challenging too, to bring in very many different competencies and perspectives in the process.
So I would wish for, like, if we were to do this project again, I would wish for like an even more collaborative process. And especially from the beginning, I would like to bring in more of the stakeholders from the start, and maybe working with you from the beginning, because I just think that if you can make that work, it is more challenging, but it would be a stronger concept in the end.
Right.
And probably closer to reality as well.
That's a great point, and I think that is really the key to why you need to bring in different stakeholders from the beginning. Speaking of stakeholders, what kind of competences is important not to forget? Like if you think about who should we include in the explorative phase, what's your point of view of that, Anne? Like who should not forget to bring into the table?
So in this context, I think that the tourism industry, the talking and understanding the reality of the business owners, understanding how they can meet the needs, and also to take very much into consideration their enormous creation and ideas that they have. I think that's where the power is.
Yeah. James, how you experience working together with like both concepts and the validation and prototyping of them?
I think on our behalf as the designers looking at the lodging experience in this case, there, as mentioned before, there are many different aspects, the digital and the analog, finding a balance of this, and to have then some kind of validation has been really fantastic. So the work by Black Lizzie has been really good for us as designers to check, is our idea close to reality?
Right.
What are the needs of the stakeholder? And it's been fantastic that there's an opportunity there, and that our idea in some ways is waterproofed, and in other ways raises the question, yeah, maybe we can challenge this and improve that a little bit more.
Yeah. So talking about like coming closer to reality and really finding the challenges, like the real challenges super early in the process, is what is enabled then if you bring the different both competencies but also important stakeholders to the explorative phase of the project. And Helen, I know that you, by finding this out together, I know you got a key insight how to move forward with like your innovation work.
Yeah, and test in an early stage. That is like in short, test in an early stage, bring in the reality in an early stage and test, and then ideate again. Like so, not a linear. We had kind of a linear process this time. So we like did all the concept thinking and all the coaching and all the knowledge and all the trends and everything, and then we did the prototype when Anna came in, and then I would long for like a year. One more year or half a year or something to be able to go back to the ideating and then test again. So, but next time around we will absolutely test earlier and make it simple, not so hard. Like if you say the word prototype into the tourism industry, they would like prototype. That's like something spaceships flying around.
You're building
but it's not. When it has to be like simple and early. So yeah, I bring that with me for the next time.
Ebba, what do you think that would do for you as a designer working in that way?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, that you should always like try not to divide the process in concept and then prototype. You have to do it like continuously, prototyping and then like rearrange, because yeah, you have to be flexible, I think. And I would say that, I just lost my train of thoughts a little bit, but I'm sorry.
That's great. Anna, what are your thoughts about all of this? Like, what would it do for you? And how could you approach prototyping? Like, what is it? Does it need to be spaceships or building something big? Or how do you do that?
No, it can't be exactly like Helena is saying, quite simple. And like you're saying, doing it early. Because, I mean, just a simple little idea, you can put it down on paper, you could have a box and put something in it, and you can go out starting asking people.
Yeah.
Another important thing to do is test the idea on yourself. probably before you go out asking other people to test it. But even the smallest little seed of an idea, you can do something with it. And when you start getting input and feedback back, then it grows. And it becomes so much stronger and so much better.
And I think like we tried to, in our process, to go through the whole design process, even in the first stage, and we did on a small scale. But it would have been really good to get all the resources that we got in the prototype phase much earlier, and test on a slightly larger scale from the beginning to be able to really get a result. I think we would be like closer to implementing this now if we would have gotten that from the beginning, or maybe started working with Black Lizzie from start.
I'd like to add another thing. When you go out and test really simple lo-fi paper things, handwritten or hand-drawn, there's this element of a little playfulness. And when you meet people with this material and with this attitude, it's not so serious, it's not so hard, and I think the conversations go easier. They're more fun and they're more creative.
Yeah, that's a great approach to it. Like it's more fun and rewarding for everyone, and you get stronger concepts in the end. What's been your learnings from working with this in this way with prototyping, even if it came a bit later on in this special project?
The outcome as before with the validation has been really important to us, and that's allowed us to be a little bit entrepreneurial, I think. And right now that we're at a stage where we have ownership of an idea, and we're in those next steps where we could be testing at a larger scale. And thanks to Tourism in Skåne, still I think we're able to develop our idea. We have a seed, but we're also aware that there are many solutions for other stakeholders that we can help to develop with them. And I think that our journey is just beginning in that way with the idea.
It's a continuous process, right? As you mentioned, like it's not linear at all. It grows and it gets better, but you need to find out even more. You're not finished after the first round of finding a concept or validating the concept. So I know that you've been approached to challenges, and you've had ups and downs in the project, and you've had barriers that we needed to find out what they were about and to test, and that's what's basically happened a lot in the prototyping phase that we've been in together. And I know that also like these concepts that you've been created or designed have now been validated, and you want to take them forward, and we've also been validating like the business aspects of them. But I'm curious to hear, like, okay, so all of this has happened now. What's the way ahead? I mean, you mentioned that we're not finished, so what will happen next?
Well, we don't know, but there are some stakeholders, and like, for instance, landowners who had shown interest in these different concepts. So our hope is to really, because we wanted to have these real concepts, not like hackathon ideas, but we wanted to have them to be able to implement them in the market anywhere where a landowner who has a forest who wants to like do something cool. So we had this open source idea, and I think that's what we will bring forward now and work with someone who's really into putting it into the market somehow. Right. But we really don't know what's going to happen. No. So that's really exciting.
That's interesting. And then I'm getting really curious about, I know that James, you're the one who will now talk to these landowners who are a bit interested in the concept. Like, and you mentioned also that you have a starting point, but there's a way ahead. Like what do you see as your next important steps with this?
It's definitely to first connect, to understand the challenges of those stakeholders. And I think that to adapt and develop this idea further into the future, I think we need to be flexible, not to hold on too tightly to some aspects. And I think that there are opportunities there for design to look at elements of behavior. How can we encourage people to go out into nature in the right way, respectfully? How can we balance the digital and the analog together, that we have the right balance in the experience in nature, but a good way to get there and to navigate and to find. And I think that there are many different stakeholders that we can talk to and to bring their input into this and take it further.
So it's a collaborative journey ahead finding the right way. I also love the sustainable approach that you bring to all of this, because we started off with saying like we want to get more people out in nature, but not at any cost. So it's also about doing that in a sustainable way for both the people getting out in nature, the nature itself, but also obviously the ones who are going to provide the solutions. Ebba, what's your takeaways from working, and where is your concept at right now?
So I think that Tourism in Skåne, they probably expected like 2 or 3 like really neat concepts that they could implement soon or now. And I mean, we kind of did that. But I think that the really good outcome of this project is the realization that like working with design on projects like this can really just open up for so many new ideas and like seeing the bigger picture. So we will want to continue working with Tourism in Skåne in some way. We're having the discussion right now. And also as part of the project, me and Stina, we redesigned like the grill and the cooking area. And we've gotten some interest in that too, so we're developing that as well. Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you have one aspect of the concept that you will bring forward, but not in this setting. But let's see what happens next.
Exactly.
And I think that is really what's so interesting when working with innovation. Like you never know what happens, and it's so interesting to also follow those new ideas and see where they take you, even though that wasn't the plan from the beginning. Anna, you're in the final phase of your work within this project.
Yes.
What is that about right now?
So I'm very determined to all of these great insights, all the learnings we got, to make them available in a way that's really easy to take in, to make sure that the voices of the end users and the tourism industries is heard, and their concerns and challenges are seen, and making sure that the designers will have a really good ground to create innovation.
Yeah. Talking about innovation, that's your task, right?
Yeah.
In your work, like leading innovation
But not
processes
alone.
and enabling more innovation. Yeah, not alone. What have you learned from working in these ways that we've been talking about now in this project, and how will that enable you to move forward with Tourism in Skåne's innovation work?
Yeah, we are in the beginning of our innovation work, really. Like right now we're sitting doing a strategy for how to work with innovation from our side. What is our role? How can we make it the most impact and to like create and accelerate innovation in the tourism industry? So, and we have learned so much. I love this project mostly because we have some great concepts, actually, that we hope and aim for to put on the market. But we also learned so much about innovation and how it can work, and got new ideas and aspects of it. So now we're really trying to put a strategy and being really open and transparent to where we can find, where we can make the most impact as a company that we are. Enable innovation.
Yeah, by finding those best ways of working.
Best ways of working, and not actually, it doesn't have to be the biggest and the largest budgets, but how can we create innovation in the small? And then we will also, of course, share the learnings from this project, like nationally, with our colleagues, with the business, like the design business.
Yeah, so maybe it's about impactful ways of working with innovation then.
Yeah, and we had a hidden agenda with this project, and it was like having. No, they don't know about it. It's hidden.
Do you want to share it now that
the
we're
big
finished?
reveal? But it was that like to get the design industries and the designers and building relations with that industry and get their eyes open for the tourism industry, so, and getting to learn and like. So I think that we really reached that goal because with the grill and with the concept that like so and really that they want to continue to work with us.
Yeah. So mission accomplished on that note.
Yes,
so I promised all of our viewers that you would share some pro tips or your best tips or even your most impactful tips on how to approach not design challenges, but more of like innovation potentials, or if you want to move something forward, develop something, how could you approach that innovation potential or innovation project that you want to go ahead and move forward with. What would be your tip to everyone who's with us? What could they think about or take with them from this talk?
I could say that I think you have to be, if you're doing a project like this, you have to be really flexible and you hold on to your ideas, but not too much because they will change, most likely. But also really aim to make it real somehow.
Yeah.
So whether it be finding someone to collaborate with, like Tourism in Skåne, or just somewhere so it just doesn't stay like a fantasy.
An idea in your head that is super great, but you don't know if it will actually
So really
work.
aim to make it real. That's my best tip, I think.
Great. How about you, James?
Yeah, I would love to add to that, and I think it's about understanding readiness also. That some ideas are in the sphere of dreaming, and there's a right time for that to capture the imagination, to look at potentially new opportunities outside of your field, but then to be able to plug into existing systems right now, or to provide the promise that in a few steps with the right development and the right partners, then the reality is closer than we think. And it's just about moving those pieces to make a new picture.
For my part, I very much like what you said there, James. That you don't have to do the spaceship right away. Smaller steps, and then go out, test, and talk, listen, and learn.
How about you, Helen? What would be your pro tip?
Like being open and also get the reality in there at once, but like keep your dreams alive, and like love the barriers when you find them, because that is where the innovation will happen.
Yeah.
When you come to a barrier and think, how will I solve it? Not just go around it or give up, like solve it, because that's the innovation, I
Right.
think.
That's when you know that you're hitting an innovation potential, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that's where the magic could happen. And if you approach that collaboratively and really like get curious about finding out what it's about and test the idea in reality, then you would get closer to an actual concept that would fly in reality and not be a great idea that you never know how it will land.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this talk, and thank you for attending, and best of luck to all of us, I guess, moving on with these kind of work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.